Welcome to the Puck Bunker. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host, the man who is an alleged undercover Saudi prince, Darren Boyce. How you doing today?
You really do think I have a lot of money, eh?
No, you're just a man that wears many hats. So, and that beer is not fooling anyone.
No.
Okay, so we got an exciting episode today. We are doing our final draft rankings. Look, we've talked about all these players that we're going to mention today pretty in depth, or most of them at least. So we're going to go through the list here one by one, basically. Start with some honorable mentions. We're going to go backwards. Let's go backwards from 64 down to 1, make it a little dramatic. We each have 5 honorable mentions. We spent the last 10 months debating these guys, I guess, but really heavily in the past week. Right up until about 5 minutes before we finally settled on a top 2 rounds that made us both really happy. Now, before we start, I'm going to take here 30 seconds, boys. I know I talk a lot, but look, we know that we're dealing with kids here and we're judging their play and analyzing them, and these kids have gone way further in hockey than we ever did, and we know that. So we tried our best this year not to be too tough, to be critical but fair, and ultimately, if we mention your name on the show even once, congratulations, because you're a hell of a fucking hockey player, and we wish every single prospect the best of luck in the upcoming draft. And as people, regardless of where we rank you, it doesn't matter. We're cheering for you guys either way. You guys have all worked really hard to get to this point, so congratulations. And if you don't like where we ranked us, just prove us wrong. You wouldn't be the first and won't be the last to make us look like fools. So we're happy to be wrong on guys. So I just wanted to say that before we got into it.
If they don't like my analysis, they're more than welcome to come on the ice with me and take clappers at me. It's more than fair if they want to do that. So,
okay, you know what? Open call. I'll personally fund the ice time for this.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to come on, get on the ice with Darren Boyce and take some shots at a 37-year-old man who just had his first baby, please DM me. Find a way to get a hold of me. I'll set it up. Like, oh yeah, that would be so much fun.
Because the thing is, I'll get in front of it and hurt myself, so I'm more than okay. So let's give it a shot.
The best part is you think you can get in front of these shots still.
Well, I literally, it's blocking Rocco.
Okay, we're already off the rails, not 1 minute into this. Okay, I'm going to start with my honorable mentions. These are guys that we discussed putting in our top 2 rounds, but ultimately, for one reason or another, we agreed to put them just outside our top 2 rounds. So we each have 5 honorable mentions that we like as prospects that didn't that we would have ranked really in the 3rd round if we went that far. So for me, Eddie Enborg, Jacob Rombach, Ethan Zada, Wojtek Chihar, and Quinn Beauchene. I thought all these 5 guys had really nice seasons. The first 4 guys just would be outside the top 2 rounds for me, just because of maybe upside, even though I really like their work rate and their two-way play and their heart and motor. Those are my kind of guys that I like generally. So, and then Quinn Beauchene is a guy that I just thought really progressed a lot through the year. I didn't think he was super great early in the season, and then at the U18s, I thought he was one of Canada's more steady players. And right shot D always have value, so I wanted to give him a little honorable mention there as well. So those would be my 5. Darren, who do you got before we jump into these rankings?
So I obviously have developed a Russian bias through this process. I still think they're undervalued in this draft class. I think a lot of teams are kind of avoiding them. I think a lot of people aren't. I think maybe they're undervaluing the quality of Russian hockey a little bit comparatively to some other leagues. Here are the names here. Ilyas Magomedsultanov and Bogdan Pastretsov. Yeah, so there's 2. I'm just going to talk about them just for a second. Both defensive defensemen, both guys that I think are actually fairly physical, both guys that I actually think skate pretty well and can make a good breakout pass. If those guys are in North America, they're not in the 3rd round, especially with the skating component at their sizes. So I think those are good value picks after the second round. I also have 2 goalies here. Alexei Medvedev of the London Knights. I think he's a quality goalie prospect. I just think he kind of falls out of the first couple rounds here. But I think, there's a quality guy. There's a young guy, decent enough body, good template there. And Ivan Tchechenko, that is a guy. I hope this again. I'm going to say this again. The Sens have a later pick if they want to take a goalie. That's the guy they obviously have to take. I think he's undervalued. He has good athleticism, good size. He improved a lot during the year from what I saw of him. I think that's a good risk to take after the second round. And my last guy, I'll actually give Grant McKegg a shout out for that one. Mads Clevo, actually watched him a little bit more recently. Again, I'm not sure what the offensive upside there is. Work rate is incredible with him, though. And that looks like a guy that can play in the league. I don't know if he'll be a top-line player, but certainly looks like a guy that can play in the NHL. So those are the 5 honorable mentions I have. And a couple shots there, a couple goalies, and maybe a more safer guy if you're looking for a lower lineup guy.
I love it. So those are honorable mentions. Now, without further ado, our top 64 official best rankings on the whole internet as voted by 3 out of 4 dentists. We are going to start with the Puck Bunkers inaugural season's final rankings at number 64 from Val d'Or. There will be no Q slander here. Philippe Veilleux, very high octane, high upside offensive player. He's small. That's the knock on him. There's some detail work, obviously, as well. But in terms of high upside swings at this point in the draft, I mean, this guy's got more offensive upside than probably the next 15 guys we have ranked ahead of him. So Philippe Veilleux could be a nice little sleeper for someone at Carolina on draft day. Number 63, Hayden Papanakis from the Kelowna Rockets of the WHL. Massive forward with some good two-way ability. We like big guys, and that's no surprise. 62 from Finland, Lasse Boelius. Smooth skating, puck-moving defenseman. Decision-making could use a little bit of work. But there's a package here. There's some tools and some upside. Number 61, Reese Hamilton from the Regina Pats. Very smooth skating, puck mover. Had a down year offensively compared to the expectations going into the season, but he has a lot of the tools you like aside from being only 6 foot. But geez, really fluid skater and pretty good puck mover. So Reese Hamilton at number 61. Darren.
All right, so we got. Man, I am so bad with names. I am literally Don Cherry. It is
honestly, it's really funny.
So
you like all these guys whose names you have no idea how to say.
I can't say them.
It makes me really happy.
So I have Thomas Politan. So again, he is I want to say a very high effort, very physical type player. Played pro this year in Liga, looked quite good. I think you're looking at a pretty decent depth piece here on a bunch of teams. This is a guy in the second round. I think you can pick. I think you can maybe find him in a bottom 6 role. I think it would work quite well for you. 59, Milton Gastrin. I mean, I liked him a lot early in the year. He kind of fell a little bit for me. Just didn't really like some of the things I saw at the end of the year. But again, I think there's a decent playmaker here. There's a good defensive forward here, a good defensive centerman. I think, again, it's worth a shot here. Theostok Salius. Now, again, this is more of an upside play. He is I would say a lean, tall body. He needs to fill out a little bit. So this is we're kind of looking in that regard. I think, though, you can see some offensive upside here, and you can see a lot of development happen from if he can gain some physical strength. I think it improves his skating. It improves a lot of things around the ice because he is kind of weak around there. So if he can gain that strength, I think you're looking at a pretty solid player at 58. At 57, I have Nathan Bain. I've actually really liked him throughout the year. Maybe he kind of just ended up here in our rankings. I mean, I still do really like him. I think there's a power winger here. I think there's a guy that's really good around net. And I think like he has some good offensive ability. You could see a guy that could potentially score 20 goals in the NHL if you worked on his details. He's just missing some details defensively. And again, I'm not sure if that's him or is that more the coaching of the team they were on. But I mean, again, there's a solid prospect here. There's a guy that can, again, even in the playoffs, like you're looking at some, harder, bigger wingers here than he could be, that type of guy in the second round. I think there's some value there.
At 56, we've got from the U.S. national program, William Moore, a guy that came into the year kind of ranked as a consensus first rounder. I just never found that we saw a game collectively that we really loved his play. That said, very toolsy player, projects as a middle six winger, I think, with some good skating and some good offensive ability, honestly.
Shoot the puck. He can really shoot the puck.
Yeah, he can really shoot the puck. There were some inconsistencies, which is why he finds himself in the second half of round 2 for us. But a very talented player. Look, I'd say this: if we made a list of guys who could make us look dumb, William Moore would probably find himself on it. But for now, we have him 56 on our final rankings. 55 over to Sweden, Eric Nielsen. This is a guy that we debated a lot. Extensively, surprisingly a lot for a guy that we ranked 55. Could have some upside here, I think. Very, very thin. He's only 165 pounds. 6 foot tall, 5'11", 6 foot, but just not the biggest, not filled out. So he's very, very raw. Dad played in the league, so I think there could be some upside there as a middle six player. Good speed, really good edges, good hands, I think. So there's a package to work with, but maybe more of a bit of a project. 54, over to Blainville. Again, there will be no Q slander here. Matteo Nobert, not to be outdone by his teammate, Justin Carbonneau, who we'll talk about later. Nobert is a guy that I found that every time either one of us watched Carbonneau, we said, hey, that Nobert had a pretty damn good game too. So a little small. So you'd like to see him fill out a little bit better. Not the tallest kid, but a really, really good playmaker. Sees the ice really well, and I find he makes the guys around him.
Plays with a bit of jam too.
Yeah, he does. He's a competitive kid, and he makes the guys around him better, I find. So not a guy that you've seen a lot in a lot of people's lists this high, but a guy that obviously we like quite a bit to put in our second round. Back to the U.S. program, Cole McKinney, 53rd overall. Two-way, hard-working forward. We both like the way this kid plays a lot. We have nothing bad to say about his style of game. His place on the rankings is reflective of offensive upside, in our opinion, at least for what we've seen so far. But we're both big fans of the way this guy plays the game. He does it the right way.
All right. So our next pick, we're at 52 here. I have Matthew Gard of the Red Deer Rebels. This is a big lumbering centerman. I think he actually skates quite well for his size. I think he has good details. I think there's a very professional player here. I'm not sure what the offensive upside is. He's not a great playmaker, and he's good along the boards, though. I mean, he does a lot of things that coaches will like. Good two-way game. I think this is a guy that, again, maybe a lower lineup center, but again, because of his size, he is a large man. I think this is a guy that people will be interested in this spot, and I think it's a good pick for teams. He kind of looks like a pro already. I guess that's what I would say there. Maybe a poor man's Jack Nesbitt type here. I think that's kind of what you're looking at. 51, we have Cameron Schmidt. Needless to say, on the pro side here, we have maybe the best shot in the draft. There's high-end offensive ability here. There's a good skater. The issue for us, the size portion does bother us a bit with him. We just don't see the amount of, I guess, jam that we need from some of the other smaller guys to maybe survive in the NHL. We are questioning that a little bit. But again, because of the offensive skill level, we still have him here. We still a top 2-round pick. I mean, he's worth taking a shot on at some point just because of the high-end skill. At 50, we have Jack Mrtka. Kind of similar. There is some more offensive upside here with this player. We've struggled with his details all year, though. I don't think, me, myself, I don't think.
Sorry, more offensive upside than Schmidt?
No, just in general, he has more
Okay.
offensive upside than some.
Yeah.
Not Schmidt, but he's an offensive upside guy
Yeah.
here.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who could shoot the puck. I mean, he works hard at times in the offensive zone. It's kind of in the D zone and in the neutral zone that we're a little bit worried about here. It's not a high detail guy. But again, I'm not sure his elite skill, which is his shot, is good enough that it's going to be his bread and butter in the NHL. So there's some questions there as well. But again, he's worth the upside here. And then 49, we have Riker Lee. He's been a lot higher on other lists than ours. He has gone through a growth spurt. He does have really good hands. Like I do understand that. He does need to gain strength. His skating, though, again, I get that it can get better with his strength and that, him getting stronger, but he does lack a lot of burst in his stride. And I just don't think he's a great skater in general in terms of the way that he skates. So I wonder how, and he's only, again, he grew to 6 feet, not 6'4". Now, if he's going to grow more, then that changes things. But again, he's about 6'6'1", which is good, but it's not enough that pushes him into my first round or our first round in general. It's just, again, he is in the USHL. So again, there's competition there, but again, I would say it's not the highest. It's not as high as some of these other leagues. So again, there's offensive potential. There's a guy worth taking a shot on. But in terms of him being a first rounder, not for us.
Number 48. This is going to be for us anyways, our only ranked re-entry player, Christian Epperson from the Saginaw Spirit. Passed over in the draft last year, came back with a point to prove this year. This is a guy that plays a very pesty, borderline dirty style of game. He's got some offensive tools, I think, and I think he's got a pretty high floor because his work rate is so high, and he's not the biggest kid, but God, he's full of piss and vinegar. I think he's gonna play in the league, and he's a guy that would, honestly, his style of play would fit in on whatever. I don't know why Florida wins 2 cups in a row and all of a sudden they're getting shit on by the whole internet, but that doesn't make any sense to me. But
They're jealous.
Doesn't make it's insane. They're back-to-back champs, and it's like they're just getting like rip-roared up and down Twitter all day long, but like it's bananas. He would fit in on that team, so we like him because of that, not despite that. So that's Christian Epperson, 48. Number 47, Michael Pradell, hat tip to Darren Boyce on this one. We like this guy at the Hlinka. He was phenomenal there, and he's been very high in our goalie rankings all year long. I think the consensus rest of the world is kind of starting to catch up to that, and he's finally getting to be ranked higher on most places. But it's a guy that Boyce liked a lot all year long, so we have him at number 47. Number 46, big bad David Bedkowski, right-handed D from the Owen Sound Attack. Absolutely massive specimen of a human being who will lay out everything in sight. Skating needs to come a little bit. Puck play is not fantastic, but it's good enough. He knows what he is. Big mean mother, and I think he's not going to be very fun to play against ever. You can echo a lot of those same statements for who we have at number 5, which would be Carter Amico from the U.S. national program. He's a guy who could have been a lot higher on our list if he got a chance to finish the year. These big defensemen, you tend to notice their improvement a lot throughout the year because their skating and strength comes as they get older, and he didn't get that opportunity. So we have him at 45. It's a player that we really like. Excited to see him back healthy again next year.
We did. Carter Amico. Shout out Link. Shout
out to Link, who has Carter Amico ranked 3rd overall.
Oh man, maybe 31st. He doesn't have him 3rd.
I know he doesn't have him 3rd. Sorry, Link's catching strays here. Yeah. Anyways,
so 44. We have Shane Van Saggy from Michigan State University. So again, he might be a little bit lower on our list than some others. Really hard forechecker, works really hard. I mean, he has some offensive skill. The skating is a big question mark here. Like, I don't see, or at least we do struggle a little bit with the speed portion that he has, but we think he'll play. We think he has the ability to, work well on a bottom six and kind of a forechecking role and chip in a little bit. So I think there's a guy here. 43, again, this might be someone that maybe is a little bit higher on our list than others. Tyler Hopkins. And the reason that we have him here is that this guy is he's one of the top, I think he's one of the top 3 forward skaters maybe in the draft. He is an exceptionally fast skater. He is a good two-way player playing for Kingston. And he may not, again, I don't think he's a bad offensive player. I think he's a decent playmaker. He just didn't put up a ton of points playing with Kingston this year, but every time we watched him, it's kind of a similar thing with Nobert. We watched him, and there's games against London, games against Oshawa, games against good teams in the OHL, and he's the guy who has the puck constantly, and he's constantly creating things and doing good things on the ice.
No, I know we're going back and forth here, but I just want to jump in him, and similar to Nobert, sometimes there's guys you go to watch and you have to look for them. You don't have to look for him. He stands out on his own, Hopkins, and you watch him, and it's like he's low in the rankings, so you're not necessarily paying as close attention to Kingston's games, but then you see him in person a couple times, and we're in Ottawa. Well, I am anyway, so I saw him a bunch this year, and it's like every time I'm like, Darren, he just keeps making good play after good play, and Boyce had the exact same feelings in his viewing. So he's a guy that stood out on his own without us needing to look for him, which we like. So sorry, Boyce.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So, like, again, we feel this is I think there is like a third line center type here, just with the speed in general. This guy's a smart player. He's going to be, again, the skating translates. So this is a guy that can play a lot of games in the league. So we like him. 42, Jacob Iswozniak. So again, maybe we were a little high on him early in the year. I mean, he has he has good offensive ability. He could shoot the puck. I thought his physicality grew as the year went on. He just disappears at times. And that's when you look at, like, coaches want consistency out of their players. So that's kind of the reason he's here. I think some teams would just be a little bit, again, in our mind, that gives us a little bit of a hesitation. I want some more consistency out of my guy, but there is a potential where this guy, you take him here and there's a high-end offensive player here. It's worth a shot, but there's just, again, the consistency concerns. And then 41, we have another goalie, Pyotr Andrianov. So again, I get stuck with the names. This is the start. So we're going with the goalies here. This is a guy who has the potential to be a 1A goalie. There's rumors that he's about 6'1", 6'2" now. He's growing, which would be great. He's still, the size is good enough. He moves quite well, and he had an exceptional year. I think he had like a 940 save percentage. There's also rumors right now that he is signed in Russia until 2030. Some people might hesitate on that. I actually think that's good because, as I've said before, you can just draft him and leave him. You do not have to do anything, and you hold his rights. So I think he's a good selection here, and I think he's a good goalie option at 41.
Number 40, we're breaking into our top 40 now. Look, and now we're at the point where it's either guys with really high upside, undeniable skill, or guys that we really, really like. And there's probably been a few of those guys already, but our top 40 is a lot of fun for us. This is a guy at number 40. I guess this is probably one of our bigger statement picks. This is Roman Bausov, massive 6'6", right-handed D. No surprise, out of Russia, that is criminally underrated by the scouting community, in our humble opinions. I don't know that he goes this high on draft day. In fact, I'm pretty sure that he doesn't. That said, we think in 5 years down the road, this looks like a pretty good pick for whoever's willing to take him. I mean, he can move the puck, massive. He's right-handed. We're not sure what there is not to like about him other than his birth certificate. So number 39, Daniil Prokhorov. We have watched this guy extensively because, geez, Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, we've talked about him enough. Very, very, very high upside player that comes with some risk as well. But anytime after the first round, we think it's a pretty reasonable risk to be taking. Number 38, Joshua Ravensbergen, the consensus number 1 and our number 2 ranked goalie. Prince George Cougars, 6'5", 6'5" goaltender, has number 1 goalie upside, according to pretty much everyone, ourselves included. Number 37, Max Sinichka from the Portland Winterhawks of the WHL. He got better and better as the year went on. He just looked more and more comfortable once he came over, and by the time it was at the end of the year, he was getting a lot of responsibility there for them. And look, we thought there's some work to be done. He has some more, but there's a lot of tools here in a really nice package. Big right-handed D who can skate are very, very hard to come by, and we like his potential as one of them.
All right. So at 36, we have, man, I always get stuck with these names.
Just call him Simon.
Simon Wang, Simon Hoaxy Wang. So again, he was playing for Oshawa. He kind of came up halfway through the year. He's very raw, but again, this is a massive defenseman, about 6'6", skates incredibly well, has great agility, good stick. There's good, he has some pro habits even now, just with his high flip ability and that. Started being physical a little bit more in the year. You're going to have to work with this guy. You're going to have to give him some time. But there's the potential of this guy is a shutdown defenseman in the NHL. The skate, you can't really turn down the skating package. There's a limit to where you can, where this guy's going to, I think it's 36, honestly, is where you have to kind of take the upside here. It's too big of a thing to do. 35, friend of the show, Peyton Kettles.
I'd like to be on record that I personally have. Look, we had to make certain compromises here, and Boyce has guys that would have been in his first that are not in our first, and these two guys are if we release individual rankings, which we obviously didn't or decided not to, Wang and Kettles would be in my first round. I think they're pretty much can't miss in terms of being 500 plus game NHL players. Absolutely love both of them. So Boyce, continue.
Yeah, well, with Kettles, again, this is a guy who was forced into playing top pair minutes for his team against a lot of high-end competition, and we thought he actually did quite well in those situations. Now, some people point to him analytically, and there's some things, like his retrieval rates, for instance, aren't as good as some other guys. Look who he's playing against. I mean,
he had the toughest minutes of anybody in this draft class.
Legitimately did, and he not only survived, I thought actually did quite well. He's extremely physical and mean to play against. And from us speaking to him, it seemed like he was almost holding back in that regard, and he was already mean and physical to begin with. So I'm intrigued by the physical package here, because this could be just a horrible guy to play against. Like seriously, like if he's just gonna hammer you all night and just give you cross checks and everything, like this is a guy we want to see. So I think that there's a lot of potential in this guy, again, being a quality NHL defenseman for a long time. 34, Semyon Frolov. That's our number 1 goalie. This is the best goalie athlete in the draft. He's got the size as well. There's a good package here for a team if they want to develop a goaltender. A goalie coach is going to love this guy because, again, you have the athleticism, you have the size. Give him to your goalie coach. Give him to a goalie coach, and you train him. And this is a guy in 5 years that could be 1A starter upside here. I think him, Ravensbergen, and Andrianov are the 3 guys with starter upside, in my opinion. At least high-end starter upside, in my opinion. This is the guy who I would be taking my shot on as the number 1 goalie off the board. I am willing to call my shot on that. I think this is the best guy. And then number 33, we have William Horkoff. He could very easily be a first-round pick. I think he's quite a safe pick. I think he's going to play in the NHL. I think he's got a lot of pro habits. He's a big body. He hits guys. He can play along the boards. He's good in front of the net. He's kind of a type of player you would want. Plus the NHL father background, I think again, at 33, I mean, you're very happy with that. I think he might go a little higher than that, and that's okay. I think this is he's a quality player.
Yeah, at 32. So now, look, we're in our first round now. 32 might be this is the guy we're probably calling, probably not going to be a first round, although we could with the teams drafting there. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but someone that we've liked all year long, Boyce especially. He really argued a lot to get this guy into our first round. So at 32, Kurbin Limitov. What a surprise. Another Russian that Darren likes. So pretty dynamic, phenomenal skater, really good puck mover, has some questions with the decision making, but the physical tools are, they're right up there. So this is a guy with a lot of upside. Yeah, we'll see when he comes over. Sasha Bumidian at number 31 from BU. He got better as the year went on. He looked more comfortable, I thought, in the second half of the year once he got used to playing college hockey. I think this is a guy that is kind of ho-hum in the sense that I don't really see a ton of necessarily upside, but I see a very, very high floor as a guy who's going to play in the league. Very, very good skater and, average to above average size. So that's going to give him a pretty good chance to make an impact. Number 30, we couldn't have a first round without a London Knight. Are you kidding me? Henry Brustevich at number 30, right-handed D, do it all defenseman, I think. Very good skater, very good puck mover. He's going to get a lot of opportunity offensively next year that he maybe didn't have this year. But a guy who does everything pretty well. So at number 30 from the London Hockey Factory, Henry Brustevich. Number 29, this is a guy that we ended up speaking a lot about as well, and we thought that that the upside in the package of tools was kind of just too hard to pass up. He's very, very raw. It's Mason West from football, from Medina High School. So massive guy who sees the ice exceptionally well, probably in part to the fact that he's a quarterback. We think there's a pile of upside, and that's obviously the consensus read on him. He has verbally committed to hockey being his long-term future. That's really our only concern. He needs some refinement and training in the sport of hockey. You can tell that he's kind of out there just athleting it a little bit, but he looks really good athlete leading it. So in our opinion, hey, what happens when you refine this guy a little bit? Very similar in that sense to Wang, where you haven't put the primary focus or as much high-end training in hockey as some of the other kids have had. So that leaves a lot of runway for improvements down the road. So number 29, Mason West.
If I can just say something about West too, yeah, it's just when you watch him, it's very obvious to me that he is not trained for hockey. Like he's just because he's strong, but he's not hockey strong. Like he's football strong. We've talked about that. Like you could see he's strong. Yeah, you can see he's strong, but he's just not. So my worry is that he's still playing football this year. I would really like him to be playing hockey and training for hockey this summer. That's what I would really like to see, because I think as soon as you get that guy, like he might be a top 20 pick in this draft, to be honest. Like look at him. And the other thing with him too, he sees the game differently than anyone else will because he plays football. And I think that might be actually an underrated point about him. He's a quarterback. He sees passing lanes a lot differently than other people do.
Very well. He's really good at it.
He sees them differently. And I think that's kind of an undervalued thing. He isn't a normal big guy where, again, I don't want to like a Letourneau or something. This isn't a normal big guy. Like there's a guy here that sees the ice well. He sees teammates well. I think literally it's just physical refinement for the sport. I really do. I think this is a player. So
I completely agree with that one.
Yeah. So 28, we have Benjamin Kidnall, Calgary Hitmen. I mean, he had about 1 million points for them this year. I mean, he's a smallish. He can play center. I'm not sure if he's a center or not at the NHL level. But again, you have a high-end playmaker, kind of a very smart hockey player here. Your concerns with him are more size-related, not actual skill level. But again, he's more than worthy of a first-round pick. Could go higher than this if someone really wants his offensive upside, because there is a lot here. Sees the ice incredibly well. 27, Cullen Potter. Again, another smaller type. I think he will play center in the NHL. I really do. I think his speed. I talked about Tyler Hopkins. I think his speed is probably the best. Cullen Potter's is the best speed of any forward in this draft, I think. Maybe Michael Misa has something to say about that, but other than those two, even though he's small, he will still be effective because of his speed. He still causes problems on the forecheck. He still causes problems in the neutral zone. He causes problems defensively. It kind of hinders. It takes back any concerns you have about his size because his skating's so good. So I don't really have any concerns about him playing. I just don't know what type. I think he's a decent offensive player. I don't know if he's a top-line offensive player, but I mean, he could have that ability. He challenged himself. He also went to Arizona State, challenged himself there, and maybe not the highest. They're a good program. They're not the highest program. Got a lot of ice time, played really well. They had a pretty good season. So you like to see that out of a player. So 26. Shout out to the Dawn here, Vaclav Nastrazil. He'd be upset here if the Hawks didn't take him. But again, I think this is a big winger. I mean, I think he skates quite well. He's quite physical. He will take sticks to the face and pucks to the face willingly.
Good hands.
I think he's actually got some offensive ability, some jam, and there's lots of growth potential with him too. So I think this is a guy, again, there might be it's a little bit more of an upside play, but I'm not sure it is. I think there's a floor here of a guy who can play. And there's more upside than maybe we might have expected in February or January, because he really came on at the end of the year. So
and another guy with bloodlines. His older brother played in the league.
And shout out to Vaclav Nastrazil Sr.
The creator, phenomenal. Great highlight videos. I'll give him that.
And 25, we have Malcolm Spence. So again, maybe a little bit lower than he had been throughout the year. I think this is still quite a quality prospect. Maybe nothing flashy, but again, this is a guy who's probably got multiple ways he can make the NHL and contribute. I think he can play on a power play. I think he can play on a PK. I think he can work well on a third line as your winger. Might be able to move up and play with better guys as well. So I think this is if you can get a guy like this in the 20s, I think you're quite happy about it. I'm not sure you're getting, again, I don't see the maybe play driving type player here, but there's certainly a secondary player for a line here that can contribute and play quite well. Seems like a guy who could play in the NHL a long time.
Number 24 from the Windsor Spitfires, Jack Nesbitt. Again, size, common theme with us. Very big guy. A little raw in his development. He improved a lot through the year, which you like to see. Great net front presence. Really good hands there. Maybe a little bit of a project, but I think there's a package of a guy who obviously will be able to handle the size and physicality of the league, and he's got the mitts to go with it, which is nice. So Jack Nesbitt at number 24. Number 23, this is probably, if we're going to get hammered on where we rank a guy, the next two picks might be where we just get shit on and called idiots by the whole internet, which is fine. I don't care. Justin Carbonneau from Blainville, he's a lot lower than most people have him at 23. Look, we recognize the skill. We recognize the upside. We have some questions, I guess, about some decision making in terms of that sort of thing.
Well, it's the offensive awareness per se of his teammates. He's
super skilled. He's super skilled, and on a skill basis, he belongs higher, and he's going to get drafted higher than this. I'm pretty certain of that. But we have him at 23, not because we don't like him. Look, there's more than 23 very good prospects here. So Carbonneau at 23, number 22. This is the guy that we argued about. We actually ended up. This would be the guy that we argued about the most. We have the biggest difference of opinion on this player, Kayshawn Aitchison from the Barrie Colts, and ultimately The only way we actually really ended up agreeing on where to put him is we pretty much just averaged where we both had him, and it's the only guy that we had to do that for. We really couldn't agree, so he ends up at 22 on our list. Everyone knows his game: mean, physical, wicked slap shot. Some may say the skating is a bit of a concern, and the consistency in the decision making. There, for my money, I think this is a guy that would fit very well on the Ratty Panthers, and I like him for that reason. Keyshawn Aitchison at 22. Number 21, Cameron Reid from the Kitchener Rangers. If this guy was 2 inches bigger, he'd probably be a lot higher on the list for us. But at 6 foot and not the heaviest, this is where we felt comfortable putting him. Great skater, great puck mover, super creative, offensive in the offensive zone. Defensive game can be good at times, but is a work in progress because of the size and physicality. It'll just never be his strength, probably. But we believe that he can get his defense and strength to the point where it's not going to hurt him. And as long as he can do that, he's got as good of offensive tools as any of the other D here outside of Schaefer, really. So at number 21, Cameron Reid could be a really nice upside pick for somebody.
Yeah, we can't get enough puck movers, Rocco.
No, that's why at 6 foot we have him at 21, whereas usually a guy like that would be in our second round.
Yeah. So 20, we have Carter Bear. Going to be honest here.
Bit of a cop out for us here.
It is, but it's a little bit of an injury concern too. And that's
why we're copping out on it, though.
People can question us on that. We've heard that he's getting healthy in that, but again, he's obviously going to say that coming through the draft. Sliced his Achilles. Skating wasn't his forte to begin with. I mean, it was an okay skater, but so I do wonder what he looks like next year. I'm just worried that this might be a bit, at least half of the year might be a little bit of a lost year development wise, because he's working on rehab instead of actually training to, get better. But again, in terms of the player, this is a guy we really hope actually falls to the Senators. That would be great. High work rate. There's offensive ability here. I think this is again, type of winger you want, even though he's maybe not the biggest guy. He's a heart and soul type player. Like this is he's an NHL player. Like he's gonna do a lot of things well. He's gonna run through a wall for you on the team, and everybody's gonna love him. So it's just the injury concern with him that is our major issue here at 20. 19, Braden Coots. Through Coots here, he's a centerman. I think he's going to play center in the NHL. Plays a little bit of a greasy game. I mean, the question mark more is how far up the lineup do you think he's going to play? Is he going to be a second line center? Is he going to be a third line center? However, I do think if you have him as a third line center, I think he's a high quality third line center. I think those are important. And I think he's a guy that, again, I actually do think he has some second line upside. He's a little bit smaller, but I mean, there's a quality guy here. All right, 18, we have Alek Zarovsky, another Russian. I am willing and Rocco is willing to go out on a limb and say we probably still have him undervalued here. I'm really going to be honest. He, to me, and well, I guess to us, he has, other than maybe Roger McQueen, he has the best hands in the draft. Every time you watch him play in the Russian league, he is doing, guys can't get the puck off of him. He goes to dirty areas to score. He actually is a pretty decent playmaker. His skate, people do question his skating, but his edge work is fantastic. So I don't know how we can question his skating when his edge work is that good and he just needs to gain strength. Like I feel like
that's it. It's more the second part of his shift.
Yeah. But we're going to counter this now. He played in the KHL at the end of the year and fit right in, like in the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs. Played the playoffs. Played, I'm not going to say he played a lot, but he played a decent amount. Looked pretty good. And some of it, and a lot, again, I will say the hands translated. Like he was making guys miss out there and doing some good things in the offensive zone. So that's the second best league in the world, Rocco.
Okay.
So he has to be a first rounder. I realize we have him higher than a lot of people, but I mean, I think it's a mistake if he's not a first rounder. I really do. I don't know if you do as well, but I mean, we have him here.
I mean, it's. I mean, I agreed where he belonged as well here. I mean, I have no doubt that he's first round talent. Whether he goes or not, I think is maybe 50-50. But I'm getting the sense that there's a lot of people catching on to this guy towards the bitter end here, and he's going to be, he might be the 11th round, the 11th hour kind of riser, where it's like at some point Friday night, someone's gonna say, "Holy shit, already!" And Alex Borowski.
Well, there's some rumors that Montreal's met with him in Miami. There's rumors Carolina's met with him in Miami. So like he's getting meetings now because they're having the Russian camp there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really, again, if we're doing a Russian upside forward play, like this is the guy to take. And he grew. I think he was up to 6'1" as well. So he grew per.
We both love this guy.
Yeah, this guy's sick. By the way, we do have his highlights on our site. Go look at them. They're insane. It's actually insane how like his hands. And then 17, we have Cole Reschny. So this is a big riser from mid-season to now. Best in zone playmaker in this draft. I will stick with that. And there's some good ones in this draft. But he gets the puck on a string in the offensive zone, and he is just manipulating everybody out there. I think he looks a little bit like Pat Kane there. Guys disagree with me, whatever. I haven't seen many guys with hands like him and Junior in the way to analyze an offensive zone. It's quite good. He's smaller. However, he doesn't skate great. However, I think he can play center. He's a good face-off man. He's he's underrated, actually, his responsibility. And I don't think he's weak. Like I think he's actually quite strong in a lot of ways. There's a low center of gravity here. I just think he's so smart. Yeah. I think even despite the size, his brain is just better than most everyone out here. So I think that he is deserving to go in this area. I agree with that. For me, his hockey sense is as good as absolutely anybody's in this entire draft class, and that is the equalizer. I think his upside's phenomenal. I probably would have him. Look, we put him as high as Darren would let me. Although not that Darren had him much lower than me, but look, there's all really good players here. So, number 16. This is a guy that we've had ranked anywhere from 8 to 40 this year. Probably we're going to settle on 16. Lynden Lakovic. Loved his skill set. Obviously, it caught our eye very early in the year. His offensive capabilities, his size and hands combination there are exceptional. We soured on him throughout the mid part of the year. Didn't like the habits as much, the lack of physicality, a little inconsistencies in the play. And at the end of the year, we came back around. We saw what we were looking for. Not to the extent we were looking for it, but it started coming along. You can, in the sense that you could tell he's heard the critics about his motor and his physicality, and he drove the middle, drove the net pretty well the last handful of games. Was tougher to play against in the corners, threw some hits. So we saw what we wanted to see from him. Super talented kid. So number 16, Lynden Lakovic. Number 15, my favorite player in the whole draft, Bill Zonnon from the Blainville Boisbriand Armada, no longer from the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies, but that's where he played this year. He was an absolute menace for them on that line with Steiner and Vereau. Look, I talked about Bill until I blew in the face, until Boyce told me to shut up, and everybody else. I'll keep beating the drum. Anyone who's questioning the upside, I'm going to question them right back. Very, very smart player, excellent playmaker, underrated shooting ability. He's starting to use that more. Wins most of his puck battles.
does everything right. He's a guy that you're going to win games with, especially in the playoffs. Coaches are going to love him. Fans are going to love him. He'll be able to play competently on all four of your lines and both your special teams. I'm certain of this. This is going to be a very, very, very valuable piece to a very good team one day. Number 14, Victor Eklund. I would say someone who is, boys, don't laugh at me. You love Wild Bill just as much as I do. We would have him higher. If we never looked at anyone else's rankings, I'm convinced he would be a top 10 pick for both of us. Number 14, Victor Eklund. He's the guy that's probably fallen the most for us, I suppose, through not really any fault of his own.
Not his fault.
No, not his fault. Look, we ranked him as high, just about as high as we're willing to for a smaller winger. I question how elite the offense is, so I think I see him more as a second line player rather than a first, which is why he's going to fall out of our top 10. But ultimately, I think he is very safe to be a second line player. He showed it against pros. His motor's excellent. He's competitive. He's hard-nosed. He's just small. But he's plus attributes across the board everywhere else, and he's going to play a long time. He's going to be an effective piece, whatever role he settles into. We just think, based on really the size and position, takes him outside of the top 10 for us. But we have him at 14. We love him. Logan Hensler at 13, phenomenal skater, right-hand defenseman, University of Wisconsin. Again, another guy who got better as he got more comfortable with the NCAA. Might not be the flashiest, might not really put up tons of points. We think there's a pretty good puck game in there somewhere that didn't really get to be showcased as much with the role he was playing this year. Right-handed D who can skate and move the puck are extremely hard to find. And look, if we were not taking that into consideration, he might be a little lower because just based on maybe a little more limited upside, but they're really hard to find. So if you can get one, you go get him. He's going to play for a long time. Number 12, Blake Fiddler. Maybe a little controversial. Not many people have Fiddler. I have Hensler, and I have
my guy. It's my guy. Let me go.
Well, I'd say he's one of our guys the same way Zonnon.
Oh, no, you've already done 4.
Okay, go ahead. You
already did 4.
Talk about Blake Fiddler. Let's go.
All right, I'm doing 12. So number 12, Blake Fiddler.
Out of control.
And so again, same as Hensler, this is a positional need of every team. A 6'4" right-hand defenseman who can skate. These don't grow on trees. Everyone is paying a boatload to get these guys. So yes, some of the internet scouts will have him lower. Even some other people might have him lower. This guy's a valuable piece. He's a valuable piece to winning. You get D like this on your team, you don't let them go. So he might not have the most offensive upside, though there is some more. I think there's more offense there than we actually think. I think at the end of the year, he actually showed a little bit more, especially watching the U18s. Even if you watch them from the Holinka through the regular season with, Edmonton through to the U18s, there is improvement here. And there is a bit more of a power game than you would think from a D. However, again, physical, can move the puck a bit, and he's big and he can skate, and his agility is great. I don't see how this guy doesn't play. I don't see how he doesn't play a long time for a team that takes him. And right-hand D seem to go higher than a lot of people think. So I think 12 is reasonable for him. Hopefully he drops to the Sens, though. I'd be quite happy to take him there. Just letting you know, Steve Stale's very happy to take him. Number 11, Roger McQueen. Again, he's been injured the whole year, but we can't really. There's risk involved with this pick, but there's so much upside that we didn't really get to see him, and we really didn't get to see how he would have improved this year if he was healthy. Because to start the year, again, there's goal scoring here, there's great hands, and there's a big guy who can skate and play center. We do question a little bit the ability to make others better. I don't know if the playmaking's there. We don't know if the general awareness in that end is there. He can score, though. Like, let's be quite honest. He will put him in the NHL game. He will score. So again, we have him 11, just the injury concerns, like the back injury. Like that's tough, man. And again, I know he's healthy. Back injuries don't go away. That's a worry we both have. Number 10, Jackson Smith. Big 6'4" left-hand defenseman. Rocco thinks he skates better than I do. He's still a good skater. Good rush defender, has some offensive ability. There's offensive upside here. Decision making is iffy at times, but it's really hard to turn down that package. And number 9, we have Rocco's favorite, Radim Mrtka.
Yeah, I'll be taking Radim Mrtka here.
You want to take him? Fine.
Since you so rudely interrupted me before I got the chance to talk about how much I like Blake Fiddler, but you did a good job. So let's go 1 for 1 here the rest of the way. Radim Mrtka at number 9. Look, very similar, honestly, profiling to Fiddler. A little bit bigger, a little bit better skater, in my opinion. He got more offensive opportunities with Seattle, so he put up a lot of points this year. I don't know that that's going to be what he's doing at the NHL level, but there is still some raw development here to go. So I see the upside. Obviously, we pointed him out as a top 10 pick at the Hlinka. I think we nailed that.
First episode.
What's that?
It was our first episode.
Yeah. Yes. So we've liked him all year long. Our opinion, he's one guy that our opinion hasn't changed once, up or down, pretty much all year. This is exactly the range we've had him in, and probably where he'll go, and he'll play 800 to 1,200 games and be no fun to play against. And again, big right-handed D, you can skate and move the puck. They're very, very hard to find. And like Boyce said, you get them on your team, they don't go anywhere.
That is true. Need those right-hand D, especially the big ones. All right, so number 8, we have Brady Martin. This is a big riser. I mean, he's a riser in a lot of boards. He's a riser for us too. I'll admit I have questioned him most of the year. But it was noteworthy. And again, we can take the U18s with a grain of salt. And at some point there's pros of that tournament and cons of that tournament. It is noteworthy that tournament that he played with an elite playmaker and looked fantastic with them. I think that is, you're kind of seeing what that would look like in the NHL. Because those guys in the NHL, again, Cole Reschny is, by the way, Cole Reschny's sick. But
yes,
but there's other guys in the NHL that see the ice like him. We can say that. There's really good playmaking talent in the NHL, and you could see with Brady Martin that he's a guy who can do a lot of dirty work on a line. He can play some center. He can play wing. He played wing quite effectively. Hammers guys, really tough to play against. Gets the puck for his elite playmaker. Elite playmaker makes the play back to him. He can score because he can shoot the puck. So I mean, I actually think the benefit of him, and yes, he plays center. There's a lot of versatility in him. I think that might actually be his best asset because he can play center, he can play wing, and he can play in all situations.
I bet you in his prime he could play any one of 12 forward positions and be just fine.
Yeah. And I think maybe I undervalued that a little bit with him in the suit because he wasn't in a great situation. Now, however, he's 8th because I think the other guys above him there's a little bit more play driving potential with the guys above him. But this is a guy, I mean, he's going to play effectively and teams are going to love him on the team. Again, we love it. Like he hammers guys. So, I mean, I'm a fan already. So good job, Brady. You proved me wrong through the year and I got to where we needed to go.
It's okay. You came around at the end and that's why we have the whole year to do it, right? Number 7, Jake O'Brien from the Brantford Bulldogs. Again, someone that we loved very earlier in the year, right from the Hlinka. I thought he had a great tournament, and everyone was talking shit about his Hlinka because he didn't put up points. But if you look at the stat sheet from that tournament, he didn't look like he played well. Then you watch, and you saw a guy who was creating, and just bounces weren't going his way. Guys weren't finishing. That happens to a playmaker sometimes. That carried over to the start of his year in Brantford, and then he popped off and was one of the most productive players and just missed 100 points. But other than Reschny and Misa, I mean, in terms of being an end zone playmaker, Jake O'Brien's as good as it gets. Watch him run a power play from the sidewall, and it's a thing of beauty the way he can see passing lanes and deliver them. I think there's a pile of upside with this player. I'll say it again. There's a pile of upside here. I personally would have him higher. This is I wouldn't say we disagreed on him, but when we came to our individual lists, I have him higher than I have him ahead of Hagens, is what I'll say. Just because of I'm more convinced he'll play center, and we'll talk about Hagens in a little bit, but yeah, excellent playmaking center. Can he be a number one? I don't know. The pace concerns me a little bit, but I think he could be an excellent 2, and maybe a number 1 if everything goes absolutely right. But I think we're looking at a future top 6 center that could be a 50 assist guy in the league, honestly.
So the one thing I'll bring up about him, you talk about the boatload of potential. It's growth potential. He's thin.
Yes.
So he's 6'2" and he's not that big yet. We talk about issues like maybe with his pace and that. He's not physically developed yet. He comes from an athletic family. Like you're making an upside play here.
I'm going to say this now. Pencil him into Philly.
I think so. Well, we mocked him there. But in some of these picks, there's growth potential. He's a guy, again, there's elite skill here. There's a lot of growth potential here. He can go higher than this. If the team really believes in him as a center and believes in that growth potential, absolutely. It just, again, as you said, I think there's maybe more of a 2C than a 1C than maybe some of these other guys. Nonetheless, so I'll do 6. So we have Anton Frondell as number 6. So again, the details of this guy's game are great. This guy has an elite shot. He can play center. I do have I have question marks about his playmaking upside or his general line driving upside offensively. But I mean, other than that, there's not really much to be too worried about in general. At absolute worst, this guy's going to play on a wing and probably score 30 goals. So, and
pretty nice piece to have.
Yeah, be quite effective, in all 3 zones. So he's played pro, played well in pro. That is noteworthy. Yeah, it's just, again, I'm just not sure that he is a centerman. That's just my concern. Other people aren't, but that's more.
He's also, I think, of this top group, and everyone knows the names that are coming after him here. Of this top group of guys, he's the most physically developed already, in terms of his weight and being filled out, and so that's my thing. Whereas Jake O'Brien has so much runway in front of him, I think Frondell is a lot closer to what he's actually going to be.
We've said this all year. Frondell could make the NHL next year,
and that's
quite possible. Where Jake O'Brien's not playing the NHL next year.
No, so I would say I probably expect him to go higher than 6, but that's where we ended up having him. So at number 5, we're in our top 5. Number 5, and the irony of this at number 5 is
do you want to flip here, because I want to do Desnoyers too?
I'll let you do Desnoyers. Don't worry here. I already knew you were doing Desnoyers when we get to him. So
yeah,
I'll talk about Hagens. The irony of Hagens in where we have him on our final ranking is that we were like one of the first people to bump him.
We did bump him down.
That bumped him down
really early,
to have him outside of our top 3, and
we did.
We never once had him ranked number 1 ever.
No.
So it's funny that now, when it's all said and done, we have him at 5, which is higher than the consensus, which to me is hilarious. We've punished, look, the talent is supreme. He just happens to be 5'10.5", not that big. And we both feel he's probably going to play wing. I don't see him necessarily having the strength that I want down the middle. And I think the wing would allow him to be just a little bit more free offensively, much like Phil Kessel. Too talented to pass up. I think we're looking at a 80 to 90 point player here if things pan out. He's got a little work to do in the details. We've talked about the negatives pretty extensively with him, so I don't want to go over that again. Let's focus on the talent, and he's might be the most pure, naturally talented offensive player.
Even if he's a winger, Rocco, he's still worth a pick here.
I agree. That's how good he is. We think he's a wing. That's a good way to put it. We think he's so good that we're willing to rank him 5th overall at 5'10.5" on the wing, and that is something that goes against.
There's still a possibility that he could play center in the right situation.
Yeah, but ranking a small winger that high goes against everything we both stand for.
He does, but he does things that other guys don't.
Completely agree. He's a top 3 talent, and we have him ranked at 5, and that's about as low as we're gonna go.
If I can mention one thing about him,
yeah,
we need to remember that he led the U18s tournament in scoring last year and had a tournament record, but it was last year.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to have forgotten that. And again, I'm not trying to hammer on the tournament, but a guy like Brady Martin has really benefited from the recency bias of that tournament, where James Hagens is basically forgotten now how good of a tournament he had. So, other thing with Hagens, he played college and he played first line minutes against guys who are 22, 23 years old. So that is a big difference. So it is, and again, he still played quite well. He just didn't play like Macklin Celebrini. So we're not, he's not Macklin Celebrini.
Not Alex. Okay, Darren, I'll take 4 and 2 here. We'll flip one more time. Number 4, we got Porter Martone. Okay, so massively skilled winger. Which way do you want it? Because he can give it to you as a playmaker and a shooter. He's really come a long way this year in terms of being a dual threat offensively. We had a lot of issues with his consistency, his pace of play. The skating is a concern, but as we've talked about, there's plenty of big guys who are hammered for not being great skaters, who become some of the best players that the NHL has to offer. 3 names that come to mind: Mark Stone, Corey Perry, Brady Tkachuk. I don't think you're turning any one of those guys down because they don't have the foot speed or the pace. I liked Martone in the playoffs. I liked Martone when he put on Canada's jersey at the World Championships. That eased a lot of the concerns that I had. Just look, I think this is a guy that's just better than everyone and has been better than everyone in that league. And sometimes in the middle of January or February or 3rd game in 3 nights, maybe you just check out from time to time. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I think that we've had our concerns eased a lot about the competitiveness. And I think that you watch the NHL playoffs and said, who might be really good at this? And the answer is Porter Martone. So number 4 overall from the Brampton Steelheads.
So just one thing with him. I mean, the thing is with him that he is strictly a winger. Yep. So there is a possibility here that he might fall a little bit because he's literally just a winger. Whereas teams will be more interested in the center just for position, like there's scarcity of effective centermen. But if you look at Porter Martone, look at playoff teams, look at what they try to acquire. It's these big lumbering wingers who are hard to play against. And if he could dial up the physicality a bit more like he did in the World, it's like there's a very effective player here, a guy who's good in playoff situations too, because he's really good around net. And that's where a lot of goals are scored in that time of year. So we do like him. And again, like there's high upside there. So he's worthy of a selection. Number 3, Caleb Desnoyers. We've had him there. I have had him there all year. I also had Hagens 5th to start the year. So I don't think my top 5 was that bad, actually, to start the year. I mean, what is there to say about this guy? He does everything well. And even if people are questioning certain aspects of his game because he plays in the queue, a lot of these same people put USHL guys in the middle rounds. So what are we doing? Plays in the queue, sure. He's played for Team Canada. He's their first line center. Every team he goes to, he's the first line center. And why is that? Does everything well. Wins draws, wins puck battles, wins actually most puck battles. Good playmaker, good neutral zone defender, good in zone defender, very physical. Goes to net to score, goes to greasy areas to score. He's 175 pounds and he's already hammering guys. His upside is a lot. I think look, I'll say it. His upside is a lot higher than people think it is. Because a lot of people want to say, well, he's Phil Deneau. Well, Phil Deneau was also a second-line center on a cup final team, by the way, but whatever. This guy's going to be a lug to play against at 6'2", 210. Like, he's going to be very hard to play against.
He's still really skinny.
I know. And a lot of people say with Jake O'Brien, there's growth potential. Like, there's high growth potential with this guy too. And he led the Q playoffs in scoring, and he was like second in scoring in the regular season as a 17-year-old in the league. And he was on the best team, and he was the best player on the best team. But I mean, he only scored 2 points against the London Knights. So I mean, move him down. But like, so no, like it like what an like it's so. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna rant. It's so irrational to utilize the literally one of the top 5 CHL teams, probably the best defensive team of all time. And we're gonna rationalize he struggled to score in that turn, even though he scored 2 points against them. McKenna scored 1, but whatever. Anyway, this guy's good. He's gonna go to a situation. He's gonna be a good player. He's a good player for a long time. So,
number 2, Michael Misa from the Saginaw Spirit. What a year this guy had. This guy had the best season of any draft eligible. He was close to a goal a game, close to 2 points a game. They played run and gun, but I mean, I don't think he looked bad in his own end. I think that part of his game came a long way this year. I think if you're looking for a guy who has 90-point upside as a number 1 franchise center, this would be the guy you're looking at. As big of a fan as I am of some of these other players, I think Misa, in terms of being an offensive catalyst for your team, has that skill and ability to do it from the middle of the ice, which I don't know if any of the other centers will be their team's leading scorer, despite maybe being a guy like Desnoyers who might be their best player. I think Misa could be a team's best player and highest scorer. I actually think that there's less discrepancy between Misa and Desnoyers than I do between Misa and the surprise number 1 overall pick we haven't announced yet. But he was fantastic. I don't see a world where he goes number 1. I really don't. But I think he did everything in his power to become the consensus top forward in this draft. And I mean, that's what he is. He's a consensus top forward in this draft. And San Jose is going to be very excited. There's rumors they're going to pass on him. I think they'd have to be cracked to do that. But unless something crazy happens, Michael Misa is going to look real good playing with 1-2 punch with Celebrini down the middle. Like, God, that's scary. That could be really, really good. So Michael Misa is our 2nd ranked prospect and our number 1 forward. Darren, who is the mystery, shock, surprising number 1 overall ranked player for the Puck Bunkers initial season final draft rankings?
it's Matthew Schaefer, and I'm going to allow you to do the discussion here.
Oh,
you seem really excited to do it.
Look, what can we say that hasn't been said about Matthew Schaefer? He's just, plain and simple, is the best player in this draft class. I said it early in the season. I think he is literally might be a Scott Niedermayer clone in terms of being.
Apparently that's getting copied now, but
I'm taking credit for that. I said this in fucking September, Darren, about Scott Niedermayer. So I'm taking credit for that, even though no one that Bob McKenzie talks to watches our show. I'm still going to take credit for that quote, even though it wasn't me, but I'm going to pretend like it was. Most talented player in this draft. I think we're looking at a future Norris Trophy winner. I think we're looking at there's very few defensemen you could build a franchise around, and I think this might be one of them. And if he's not, he'll be the number 2 piece for a franchise, and then their number 1 defenseman. I think he's going to be all situations player. I think there's as much offensive potential here as he and his coaches want him to have. But because he's such a good skater and he has good size and he's so good defensively too, he's going to have the luxury, and they're going to have the luxury to choose how they deploy him. They're going to be able to put him out there in any situation. And if he happens to be on a team where, hey, Schaefer, we need you to score 85, 90 points this year from the back end, he'll say, okay, coach. And the next year they say, hey, Schaefer, we got a guy. We're going to take you off the first power play, run the second, go get 60 points and shut down the best players. And he's going to say, okay, coach. And he's going to be able to do both of those jobs very, very well. Now, off ice, this is a kid who's been through some of the most horrific shit you could imagine at that age, and someone who has used that as an opportunity to make other kids' lives better and to make what they're going through an easier thing to process. And I think that of anything I've heard about any draft prospect this year, that's the most incredible way to handle that situation. And regardless what you think about taking, if you think a defenseman should be first overall, if you think he's going to be a future Norris Trophy winner or not, some people aren't as high on him, and that's okay. But geez, I want to put that character into my locker room, period. That's a guy that will rub off on other players, and that'll make other guys in the room be better teammates. That'll make them better people off the ice. That'll help build the cohesiveness of a team. A guy who shows that kind of selflessness for other people. And I know I'm ranting about it a little bit now, but I just think it's so incredible the way he's handled what he's gone through. And this guy's been, from start to finish, no doubt, number one in my books, and Boyce's too, Matthew Schaefer.
There you go. That is our rankings. So, everyone who's still tuning in, what do you want to say to them, Rocco?
Honestly, I'd like to say thank you guys for watching. I think, this is our first year doing this. I've had a little bit of experience doing it with Grant before, and this is Boyce's first year doing anything like this. And we worked our asses off, frankly, to do this. And we had a ton of fun doing this. And we really, really appreciate all the views, all the comments, all the collaborations, the negative comments, the criticisms. We're not guys that are too big for that. We know we're going to be wrong on some guys, and we're okay with it. And look, we've had a blast. We have a small but mighty audience that seems to be growing. We'd like to get to a point where it's a lot bigger, but look, we're thrilled with the way this season went. And thank you guys sincerely for tuning in. It's been a ton of fun, and we are going to continue this program into next season. We've got some really cool things lined up. So just want to say thank you, and I can't wait for Friday night. It's going to be so much fun. Boyce, any last words?
No, I just want to thank everyone. We've met some pretty cool people on the way. We've had some cool interviews. Look forward to meeting some more people here too, and collaborating a little bit more with some others. And now we have a full off season to get ready for next year's draft class. So I'm excited about that. So everyone, leave your comments with us. If you don't like our picks, let us know. If you like our picks, let us know. If you have questions, let us know. We're happy to answer them. And thanks guys. Thanks for a great season. Boyce,
thanks for everything. This has been great. And now we get to sit back and enjoy the draft on Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what my blood pressure is like when we figure out who Ottawa finally takes. So we'll leave it at that. I guess this is season 1 of the Puck Bunker. For Rocco Zappia and Darren Boyce, we'll see you guys soon.
See you later.